Over the past 3 games, it is very clear that Caitlin Clark is not feeling like Caitlin Clark. So a lot of people are saying, oh, she's day by day. She's probably just resting up for the Dallas game against Paige. My gut is telling me that is not the case.
Caitlin Clark, your greatest asset, is going to get hurt. The face of your league is going to get hurt if you continue to allow all this physical play to happen.
That's not good. She's trying to literally lunge. She is trying to lunge, and her leg was shaking, going into a lunge.
What just happened to Caitlin Clark has the entire WNBA world holding its breath. Just days after fighting through one of the toughest shooting slumps of her rookie season, just days after showing flashes of her old dominant self, Caitlin Clark was suddenly ruled out. And not just for any game, but right as her Indiana Fever were set to take the court in front of a packed home crowd against the Los Angeles Sparks. The reason? A left groin injury. An injury that came completely out of nowhere, leaving fans, analysts, and even her own teammates stunned. And what's making this even more dramatic is the timing. Because this all happened after her shooting went cold, after her body started showing signs of wear, and right before some of the Fever's biggest matchups of the year. So what's really going on with Caitlin Clark? Is this just a small setback, or is it the start of something much more serious? Let's break it all down.
Stephanie White had no answer on the MRI results. It felt like she was just guessing. I certainly hope one day is enough, but others are speculating weeks.
But yeah, I found out late last night, and then we'll treat it day to day.
Back-to-back, I factor it all with that.
Late last night, I think it's very much a day-to-day thing, how she responds to treatment. I stay in my lane and let our strength and conditioning and our physical, our AT staff do what they do best.
They didn't say, like the last time Caitlin Clark got injured, it was quad strain. Normally, like players, when they get injured, it's announced, they mention how long it'll take for the player to come back. With Caitlin Clark, there was none. There was none this time. It just said she's out groin. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. And we're now in a situation where nobody has a clue what's going on.
It started with a single notification. Early Thursday morning, the Indiana Fever updated their injury report. And there it was, Caitlin Clark out, left groin injury. No long explanation, no details, just that. For fans who have been following her every game, it felt like a gut punch. Less than 48 hours earlier, Clark had been on the floor, grinding through a hard-fought win over Seattle. Sure, she hadn't looked like her usual self, shooting just 3 for 13 from the field, missing all 6 of her three-point attempts, and turning the ball over 8 times. But still, she was playing. No obvious limping, no sitting out late in the game, and then suddenly, she's sidelined with a groin issue? Even head coach Stephanie White admitted this wasn't something they've been monitoring for days. Clark had reported pain late Wednesday night, and by Thursday morning, she was getting an MRI. Just like that, the biggest star in the WNBA was out. And the team wasn't giving any clear timeline on when she'd be back. They called it day-to-day, but in pro sports, that phrase often means a whole lot more than just a couple of days.
It does look like it's something she's been carrying. It looks like she never fully healed from that groin injury. Or either that, or she picked up another injury straight away.
Here's where things get interesting. Because Caitlin Clark isn't the type of player who takes herself out of games lightly. In fact, before this season, she had never missed a single college or WNBA regular season game due to injury. Not one. This is someone who played through bumps, bruises, and more at Iowa, a player who's built her brand on toughness and durability. So for her to wake up one day, report pain, and then immediately get ruled out, it raises questions. And fans online were quick to speculate. Was this groin issue something she'd been dealing with secretly for a while? Did it flare up because of overuse, especially after coming back from that quad injury just a few games ago? Or was it related to the grueling WNBA schedule, which has Clark playing back-to-back games, traveling across the country, and barely getting time to rest? Coach Stephanie White tried to downplay things, saying the team would monitor Clark's recovery and that no decision had been made about upcoming games. But make no mistake, the timing, the secrecy, the suddenness of it all has left fans deeply concerned. And this leads right into another growing issue.
They took her out yesterday, for the MRI. So I'm not exactly sure. I didn't hear about it until we heard from our training staff last night.
Even before this injury, something had been off. Over her last 3 games, Caitlin Clark was in a full-on shooting crisis. Let's look at the numbers. 1 for 23 from three-point range, including 2 games where she didn't hit a single three. Her turnover count, a whopping 22 turnovers across the West Coast road trip. In that 6-point game against Seattle, it wasn't just a bad night, it was her season low. For a player known for her deep range and scoring bursts, it was alarming. Fans on social media started asking, was Clark just exhausted? Was her quad still bothering her? Or was she overcompensating physically and causing new injuries in the process? Some pointed out that her legs didn't look as springy, that her release was slower, that her body language seemed, off. And then, boom, groin injury. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you add up the timeline and the fact that she just returned from injury, it paints a concerning picture.
She's shown that she's tough and she's a quick healer, so we'll see.
Here's something most casual fans don't realize. Caitlin Clark's off-court recovery routine is next level. We're talking about red light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, dry needling, and strength training focused on rebuilding muscle tissue. Clark herself said just a few weeks ago that during her quad rehab, she was lifting heavier than she had during the entire college season just to make sure her body could handle the grind. And after she returned, she made it crystal clear she didn't want any minutes restriction. In her words, "I'm not playing unless I'm 100%. So the fact that she's now out after already doing all that work to get back tells you this groin issue is not something minor. Fans who follow sports medicine know groin injuries are tricky. They don't heal overnight. And if you rush back too soon, you risk aggravating it, or worse, turning a strain into a full tear. Clark is now in a battle, not just against the clock, but against her own competitive instincts. Because knowing her, she wants to be on that court more than anything, but pushing too soon could mean longer time away.
While Clark focuses on recovery, the Indiana Fever front office is already making moves. In the same 24-hour span as the injury news, the team signed guard Ari McDonald to a rest-of-season contract. If that name sounds familiar, it's because McDonald was already with the Fever earlier this season on a hardship contract back when both Clark and Sophie Cunningham were out. Now, she's back. And in a corresponding move, the Fever waived veteran forward DeWanna Bonner after failing to find a trade partner. That's a big deal. Bonner, a 6-time All-Star, brought experience and playoff leadership to the locker room. Letting her go, while also losing Clark, leaves this Fever roster looking thin. For Thursday night's game against the Sparks, the Fever had just 9 active players available. That's barely enough for a full rotation. And with Damaris Dantas also away for international play with Brazil, the Fever are holding things together with duct tape and hope. But the real worry is how long they'll have to survive without Clark.
Now here's where things get even more dramatic, because the Fever's schedule, it's about to get brutal. After Thursday's game, they head straight to Dallas for a Friday night matchup against none other than Paige Buckers, the #1 overall pick, and the player many see as Clark's biggest rookie rival. This game is already sold out, and it's being moved to the American Airlines Center, home of the Dallas Mavericks, because of massive ticket demand. That's how big this matchup is. And now, it looks like Clark won't be playing in it. On top of that, after Dallas, the Fever faced the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup Championship, one of the biggest games of the entire NBA season. If Clark misses that too, the Fever could find themselves in a free fall, both in the standings and emotionally as a team. And fans? They're already bracing for bad news. Speculation is running wild online. Some fear that the Fever might shut Clark down for a longer stretch, especially if the MRI results show anything more than a minor strain. For now, the team is being tight-lipped, but the next few days will reveal a lot.
Here's the hard truth. Groin injuries can linger for weeks, sometimes even months, especially if not managed carefully. And for a player like Caitlin Clark, whose game depends on explosive cuts, quick changes of direction, and deep shooting range, that's a nightmare scenario. The Fever are now stuck between two tough options. Do they let Clark sit out and fully recover, risking losses in the short term? Or do they bring her back early and risk making the injury worse? Right now, all signs point to caution. Clark's track record of toughness suggests she won't sit out unless absolutely necessary. But with back-to-back games, a packed July schedule, and the Commissioner's Cup looming, the pressure to rush back is real. Even fans are split. Some are begging the Fever to prioritize her long-term health. Others just want to see her back on the floor ASAP. So here's where things stand. Caitlin Clark, the face of the Fever, the Rookie of the Year, and the player who's brought record TV ratings in packed arenas, is officially out with a left groin injury. For now, she's listed as day-to-day, but if history in professional sports tells us anything, these moments, they're often turning points. Either she bounces back quickly, returns stronger than ever, and leads Indiana on a second-half playoff push, or this becomes the injury that defines her rookie season. Fans will be refreshing social media, checking for practice updates, and hoping for any sign of progress. Because right now, the biggest storyline in the WNBA isn't just about wins and losses. It's about whether Caitlin Clark can come back before this injury saga takes an even darker turn.